You ever wonder how a general AI, one that knows about pretty much everything from quantum physics to the history of pizza, turns into a focused, super helpful assistant? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. Let's get into it.
That's the big question, isn't it? How do you take all of that raw, messy knowledge and shape it into something that can actually answer your specific questions, or summarize an article, or even write a piece of code for you? That's what this is all about. Okay, so here's the plan. First, we'll talk about why we need to go from general to specific. Then we'll look at how you structure a conversation for an AI. After that, it's the fine-tuning process itself, including a really smart, efficient method called LoRA. And finally, we'll see how you can tell if it all actually worked.
All right, first things first. To really get this, you have to understand where these models start. We've got this incredibly powerful AI, but fresh out of the box, it's not quite ready to be your personal assistant.
The best way to think about it is like an untrained genius. This model has read a massive chunk of the internet, so its potential is just huge. But it doesn't automatically know how to be helpful. It doesn't know how to follow instructions in a conversation. It's brilliant, but it needs a little direction. So the very first step in giving that genius some direction, you have to teach it the basic rules of a conversation. And that's where something called chat templates comes into play. You can think of these templates as a script for the AI. They're just a set of rules that lay out the format for the dialogue. This makes sure the model knows who's talking. Is it the system, the user, or the assistant itself? That way, its responses stay consistent and actually make sense in the flow of the conversation. And what's so powerful about this is just how simple the structure is. You start with a system prompt, which basically sets the AI's personality. Like here, you are a helpful assistant. Then you have the user's question and the perfect assistant response. This super simple format, it's literally the backbone of a good, coherent AI chat.
Okay, so once the model gets the basic structure of a conversation, it's time for the real training to kick in. This is where we get to the heart of it, how these AIs actually learn new skills.
The technical term for this is Supervised Fine-Tuning, or SFT for short. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like giving the AI very specific homework. We're not trying to teach it new facts about the world. Its general knowledge is already there. Instead, we're teaching it a new skill by showing it thousands and thousands of perfect examples of that skill in action. So the whole process really breaks down into 3 simple steps. First, you start with that general pre-trained model we talked about. Now, step 2 is the secret sauce. You put together a super high-quality data set of perfect examples. We're talking thousands of ideal conversations. And finally, step 3, you train the model on that data set. You're basically showing it, when you see this kind of question, give this kind of answer over and over again until that new skill just becomes second nature. Now, as you can probably guess, retraining one of these giant AI models takes a ton of computing power and resources, and that, of course, is a huge challenge. So the question is there a smarter, more efficient way to get this done without needing your own personal supercomputer? And thankfully, the answer is a big yes.
It's a really clever technique called low rank adaptation, or LoRA. Here's how it works. Instead of retraining the entire massive model, which is super expensive, LoRA freezes all the original knowledge. Then it just adds a few small new layers on top that are trainable. The analogy I love is this. It's like adding some sticky notes with key points into a textbook instead of having to rewrite the whole book from scratch.
When you put them side by side, the difference is huge. Full fine-tuning is kind of a brute force approach. It needs massive resources. And even worse, it can lead to something called catastrophic forgetting, which is exactly what it sounds like. The AI can actually forget some of the broad knowledge it started with. LoRA, on the other hand, is much more surgical. It uses way fewer resources, and crucially, it keeps all that valuable pre-trained knowledge locked in and safe.
So, what's the bottom line? LoRA is an absolute game changer. It makes fine-tuning these enormous models so much more accessible. You save a ton of memory, which means more people, more teams can customize AI without needing access to a giant server farm.
Okay, so we've set up the conversation structure, we've trained the model on a new skill, but how do we know if any of it actually worked, right? That brings us to the final and maybe the most important step. This is the evaluation phase. You can think of it as the final exam for our newly trained AI. This is where we really test it to see if all that training paid off and if it learned the skills we were trying to teach it. And this evaluation is about more than just getting the right answer. It's about getting the answer in the right way. So yeah, of course, we measure its performance on the specific task, but we're also asking bigger questions. Is the model actually more helpful now? Is it less likely to give weird or uncooperative responses? At the end of the day, you have to make sure its new skills are aligned with what a real person would actually find helpful and natural to interact with.
And that's pretty much the whole journey. You go from setting the rules with chat templates to teaching new skills with supervised fine-tuning, and then you double-check your work with evaluation. That entire process is how a generalist AI transforms into the kind of specialized expert assistant we're all starting to rely on every day.
It really is a powerful process, right? One that makes AI so much more useful and aligned with what we actually need. And that leaves us with a really exciting question to think about. Now that efficient methods like LoRA are making this kind of customization so much more accessible, what are the next amazing skills we should be teaching our AI?